What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto returns from his training with Jiraiya and find Konoha devastated? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Everybody's favorite blonde-haired, blue-eyes ninja was slowly making his way home after his extensive training with the well-known Jiraiya of the three legendary Sannin. Slowly lifting his gaze from the path ahead of him, he could see the outlines of the bustling hidden village, Konoha. Sighing to himself, he began to wonder how much this place had changed in his absence, along with how his friends, the infamous Rookie 9 and also Team Guy, may have changed. I wonder if any of them will recognize me. Indeed, most ninjas' attire changed once they became resolved genin and grew out of their previous ninja gear. Naruto was not an exception, though his change may be more drastic than others. He no longer adorned his memorable orange tracksuit, no. Naruto had grown out of that long ago, but due to the perverted hermit's continuous nagging he was not allowed to simply get another made to fit him. Jiraiya had pointed out that the tracksuit was obviously not good attire for any shinobi wishing to be taken seriously. So through some persistent arguments, which often led to Naruto being thoroughly tired due to excessive training which he could not keep up with, even with his insane amount of chakra and stamina. Naruto's new style consisted of the common black shinobi pants, kunai pouch and leg strapping adorned. He no longer wore the simple blue zori, but he now wore a black pair to match his bottoms, regular shinobi strapping, keeping both articles of clothing stable enough for shinobi practice. Instead of the hideous jacket, as Jiraiya referred to it, he now had a fishnet long-sleeved top on, over which he wore a tight-fitting dark orange short-sleeved top with the Uzumaki swirl on that showed off his broad shoulders and muscles that would make any woman go weak at the knees. His hitate that was now black and the material slightly longer, think Naruto Shippuden, was still in its rightful place. Upon his forehead where it was having a hard time holding back his unruly hair which seemed to have grown even wilder in his absence from the village. On each hand he now wore black gloves with a metal place on the back adorning the Leaf Village's insignia. As he strolled up to the giant gates of Konoha, his infamous fox-like grin could not be contained. While Jiraiya was talking calmly with Kotetsu and Izumo, who happened to be on guard duty, both were glancing at the seemingly matured Naruto before them. That was until he ran over to the three adults yelling something about getting ramen. Naruto, you know very well that Tsunade wanted us to go to the Hokage tower as soon as we arrived, so that means your precious ramen will have to wait. Jiraiya grabbed the back of Naruto's shirt to prevent him from escaping. But I haven't had any decent ramen for over 2 years. Naruto pouted while trying to squirm out of Jiraiya's grip. If you want me to tell everyone what happened at the bathhouses in Tikine then carry on. He was cut off by a rather surprised voice coming from behind this rather amusing scene. Naruto? Quote. The ninja in question and his sensei turned toward the quiet voice. Naruto, it is you. When did you get back? The all too familiar voice called out. Naruto, upon recognizing the voice and the exotic pink hair, stuttered out a reply to her question. Sakura-chan, I just got back but this old grouch wouldn't let me go until I've seen Tsunade Bon. Naruto jabbed his thumb toward the old lecher, who in retaliation to this simply dropped him while eyeing how Sakura had grown since he last saw her with his lecherous grin plastered on his face, much to Sakura's dismay. Naruto rose from the ground rubbing his rear while giving the best glare he could muster to the old pervert. Once Sakura had gotten over her initial shock, she all but ran towards the blonde-haired ninja enveloping him in a rather tight hug. Naruto, shocked by this, returned the hug while stating the obvious. Haha, Sakura, it looks like I'm not the shortest anymore. Naruto pulled back and placing a hand on the top of her head to prove his point. He was now almost a head taller than her. Glancing up, Sakura studied his features for the first time since his arrival. His once rounded face was now rugged and masculine, though it still held some childlike qualities when he smiled his wide grin. His eyes obviously had stayed the same, though now were in better proportion on his face with his baby fat gone. And his whiskers, as many people called them, were now less defined on his face. This new appearance all in all was handsome, rather handsome indeed, she thought to herself. Hey Sakura-chan. Earth to Sakura-chan. He dragged out the suffix on her name the second time while waving his tanned hand in front of her face. Snapping out of it, Sakura realized that she had been staring blinked several times before replying. "Oh, sorry Naruto. You changed a lot." To this Naruto grinned. "I know, the old pervert made me change but I managed to sneak in some orange." Naruto tugged at his dark orange t-shirt with one hand while the other hand was scratching the back of his neck, the grin on his face widening. Sakura's sweat dropped at the mention of his fetish with the vibrant color orange, but realized that you can't change Naruto completely, no matter how hard you were to try. "You've changed a lot too, Sakura-chan. I bet you're really strong now. Hey, we should train later." Before he could finish, Jiraiya had smacked him upside the head, stating that they still needed to see Tsunade before they did anything else. Naruto sighed, wondering how long the meeting with Tsunade Baan would take. Knowing her, she'd want all the silly details and blackmail to use against Jiraiya. Sakura interrupted his thoughts. "I'm heading there now for my training, I'll walk with you." To this Naruto perked up and grinned. "Cool," turning back to look at his perverted sensei. "Well, come on Ero-sensei, hurry so I can get some ramen." While Jiraiya sighed at Naruto's nickname for him, wondering if he would ever get a shred of respect from the blonde. Just like old times, Naruto barged into the Hokage's office before knocking and yelling rather loudly. "Ba-chan, we're back." Tsunade's head shot up from its reclined position on her desk where just a few moments earlier she had obviously been sleeping. Jiraiya tried to stifle a laugh at the sight of his former teammate, who at this moment in time could be seen with a piece of paperwork stuck to the side of her face. "Tsunade-sama." The newcomer's voice was cut off at the sight of her little brother. Shizune's mouth was slightly agape, taking in the change Naruto had undergone while away from the village. "Welcome back Naruto-kun." Shizune smiled at him, covering up her previous shock. She noted the Hokage's appearance. "Tsunade-sama, you were asleep on the job again, weren't you?" "That's it, I'm taking your hidden sake." Shizune strolled over to the Hokage's desk and rifled around in a drawer and pulled out several bottles of sake. Naruto then cracked up at the Hokage's face, a pure look of terror that her poor sake was going to be harmed in the hands of this controlling woman. But Tsunade was cut off from her whining with a stern stare from Shizune and an oink from Tonton, who had followed her into the office. Sighing, Tsunade turned to Naruto to vent out some of her frustration. "Baka, what have I told you about calling me Ba-chan?" she yelled while glaring at Naruto, was still rather amused by the previous actions of both Tsunade and Shizune. Jiraiya decided to come to the brat's rescue, stepping forward. "Hey brat, I'll give Tsunade the report on your training. You go off and have some of that ramen that you obsess over so much." Naruto looked at his perverted sensei with enlarged sparkling eyes like an excited child being given candy. "Really? Woo, ramen, here I come." "Nay Sakura-chan, you should come too, I want to hear about everything that's been going on while I've been away." He looked Sakura with puppy dog eyes, blinking often for effect. Sakura sighed and was about to turn him down because of her training with Tsunade, but she was interrupted by Tsunade herself. "Sakura, you should go with the Baka to make sure he doesn't get into any trouble. Jiraiya's report could take a while. Your training is cancelled for today." Hearing this, Naruto proceeded to drag Sakura out of the messy office by her hand, obviously too excited by the thought of ramen to even close the door behind them. Walking into Ichiraku's ramen stand, Naruto was met with a strange sight. Here was the Neji Hyuga sitting at the bench eating. Now that wasn't what was strange to him, it was the fact that Tenten was the one feeding him. Before Naruto could say anything, Sakura cleared her throat, causing the two shinobi to turn around away from their meal. "Oh hey Sakura-chan, wait, is that Naruto?" Tenten stood from her stool so fast she knocked it over and rushed over to said shinobi. Naruto was shaken from his obvious shock at seeing Neji being fed by Tenten. He scratched the back of his neck while chuckling. "Yay, it's me Tenten. Don't tell me you got the ice cube Hyuga to melt." Sakura chose to reply for her friend's sake as Neji walked over to the little group now forming, looking a bit annoyed with the blonde. "Hey, Neji and Tenten are a couple and have been for about a year now." Tenten smiled when Neji snaked his arm around her waist, silently confirming Sakura's statement. "Wow, cool," Naruto replied in his usual hyperactive yet indoor voice. Then he realized. "Hey, is there anybody else I should know about that or going out?" he asked while glancing at the three shinobi around him. Sakura realized that, had this been the Naruto from before he left, right now he would be teasing Neji. But he wasn't, and to further her surprise he had asked about other couples. Since when did Naruto care about what goes on around him this much? She thought to herself. As Sakura seemingly spaced out, Tenten chose to answer Naruto's question. Well, we're all sure Shikamaru and Temari are an item, but he won't admit it. Even when Kiba saw them at a romantic restaurant together. She giggled to herself, remembering the slightly pink Shikamaru blundering about the troublesome woman had dragged him there. Haha, typical Shikamaru, Naruto said while chuckling at the story. We also believe there is something between Choji and Ino, though they have not confirmed it. Neji stated, speaking up for the first time since Naruto had arrived. Really? Whoa, good for Choji. I just hope she knows how to cook. Naruto replied, causing Sakura to snap out of her daydream and laugh along with him and Tenten while Neji just smirked. Ah, sorry guys, but I need some ramen. Naruto ran over to a stool and calling to a blushing Ayame for several bowls of miso ramen. Coming right up, Naruto. Good to see you again. Ayame then shouted the order back to her father, who in turn poked his head out from the back and greeted Naruto. As Naruto finished devouring his 10th bowl of ramen, he paid for his share and he announced that he was going to head back to his apartment, but Sakura stopped him. Naruto, your apartment was needed. An elderly man lives there now. Tsunade-sama had all your belongings put into storage. Sakura stated while letting go of his sleeve that she had grabbed before he ran off. Oh, Naruto pouted. Even though his apartment was small and not the best looking, he still liked it, and it was his home. Don't worry Naruto, she also said that upon your return she'd give you the keys to your new apartment. Sakura said kindly, noting his downwards expression. A new apartment? Cool. He started jumping up and down in excitement, his previous downer obviously not affecting him long. I'll go see Ba-chan then, bye you guys. And with that he disappeared in a cloud of red and orange leaves. Sakura stared at the spot where he had just been, wondering quite how he did it. Neji and Tenten were also surprised at his sudden departure, or more accurately the manner in which he left. The three shinobi shrugged it off as something to ask Naruto later, seeing as when normal shinobi shunshin they leave behind smoke or green leaves. As Naruto turned a corner, he bumped into a blue-haired girl, not just any blue-haired girl, but Hinata Hyuga. Hinata stumbled back because of the force both ninja had been walking at. She tripped over a ditch in the road. Closing her eyes she awaited the pain that she was bound to feel. However, the pain never came, because everyone's favorite blonde came to the rescue. As Naruto bumped into someone he was about to yell profanities about watching where you were going, but he then realized that the person was falling backwards. With his quick reflexes he grabbed the girl's upper right arm and left shoulder to prevent her from falling back. Hinata, feeling strong arms grab hold of her, yet gently she reopened her eyes and gasped at what she saw. Those eyes, it was him. He had finally returned from his training. Hinata tried to say something, but in the end she did what Hinata does best, and fainted. Gah, Hinata. The girl simply went limp in his arms. He looked around frantically for help, but nobody was about since the street they were on was built up of just houses, no shops. Sighing, and with a hint of pink on his cheeks, he picked her up bridal style and carried on towards the Hokage's office. After getting several odd looks from both civilians and shinobi he made it to the Hokage's tower. Once he got to Tsunade's office he looked at the door, then at the girl in his arms. How was he meant to open the door? He sighed and did what felt right, he kicked it open. Upon entering he realized that Jiraiya was still in the room, though he was now sat in a chair. Kakashi-sensei was also there, seated comfortably on the windowsill with favorite book in hand. Naruto then realized he was getting weird looks from both of the perverted men. Remembering that he was carrying Hinata he started to panic. Stop looking at me like that you old perverts. She fainted. A rather annoyed Tsunade took Hinata from him and laid her on the sofa to the left of the room, all the while glaring at the other blonde. Naruto turned red with both anger and embarrassment as he heard both the gray-haired shinobi's perverted giggles. Shut up you pervs. Eros Senin, don't make me tell Ba-chan about our so-called pit stops around certain places. Tsunade walked back over to her desk, glaring at Jiraiya as she heard the last statement of Naruto's ramble. Did pit stops happen to include certain bathing areas, Naruto? She asked in a sickly sweet voice, eyebrow twitching, not taking her eyes off of a now sweating Jiraiya. Jiraiya then suddenly appeared behind Naruto with a hand covering the blonde shinobi's half-open mouth. He meant about all the extra training I gave him, right, Naruto? Jiraiya started glancing around the messy office for the best means of escape. Naruto's face was now glowing purple because of both lack of air and annoyance, both caused by a certain old man. He stopped mid-bite of the sentence hand when he heard a soft groan from the left side of the office. Looking over, he saw that Hinata was stirring. "Hinata," he called out, after having removed Jiraiya's hand from his mouth and getting out of the mont's grip with surprising ease. Hinata blinked several times, waiting for the room she was in to come into focus. Once she could see properly, she realized that she was not familiar with the ceiling she was facing, though her sight was now impaired by a head of yellow hair. Naruto-kun," she gasped, pushing herself up so she was now sitting up against the arm of the couch. Naruto's cheesy grin was plastered on his face, in turn making Hinata's heart flutter. He looked both embarrassed and pleased. Hey Hinata-chan, sorry about knocking you down. I was kinda in a hurry to get back here after having some ramen." Hinata blinked several times, then realized he had added the "chan" suffix to her name, which she could not help but blush at. It was now that she noted his new appearance, especially his now manly face and his new shinobi attire. She had to stop herself from staring, knowing it would end up with her fainting, again. No Naruto-kun, it was my fault, Gomen." Hinata then looked into the eyes that she had long since fallen in love with, feeling that familiar feeling in her stomach. "Nah, it was my fault, I wasn't watching where I was going." "Hey, you grew your hair," he stated the obvious per usual. All three adults who had been apparently forgotten by both shinobi were now looking on at this rather amusing scene taking place. If anybody was to walk in right now, they would think Naruto was having a conversation with a tomato. Tsunade smirked while Jiraiya had a certain gleam in his eye, no doubt mentally jotting down the scene for use in his next book if need be. Kakashi had now busied himself with his book again, but no doubt he was listening to the conversation as well. Hi was all Hinata could manage. Over the past 2.5 years her stuttering around people had practically disappeared, and her blush was less common. But all that hard work by Sakura, Ino, Tenten and even Temari when she visited from Suna was thrown out the window when it came to talking with Naruto. Tsunade decided to interrupt to save the girl from another fainting spell, and also just to get Jiraiya and Kakashi to quit their giggling. Both teens turned around to the cause of the disturbance, and remembered why they were here, or in Hinata's case, even more confused. "Oh yay ba-chan, Sakura-chan said something about a new apartment you've got for me." Naruto's cheesy grin grew and his eyes were full of anticipation. "Yes Naruto baka, we had to move your stuff out and clean that war zone you called an apartment for an elderly man who wanted to be nearer to the shops," Tsunade stated, informing Naruto just why he was moved. She headed towards a cabinet on the side of her office and plucked out 2 keys from a drawer. "There's the key to your apartment, number 105 near the west gate. The storage facility is on your way there. Here's the key for your storage room." That said, she handed over a second key that she had retrieved from the drawer. "Your apartment is near the Hyuga estate, so I suggest you walk Hinata home after running into her and making her faint before getting your stuff." She then moved to sit back down behind her desk and grieve for her poor sake that was taken by that evil woman Shizune. "Woo, I can't wait to see my new apartment," Naruto shouted while doing what can only be described as a very disturbing Naruto victory dance. He then looked over at the now normal-colored Hinata and got an idea. "Hey, Hinata-chan, why don't you come check out my new apartment with me while I walk you home?" he asked while blinking at her with his best puppy dog eyes he could muster. Hinata looked up with a tinge of pink on her cheeks at the mention of her name, looking into his now watery cerulean eyes. How was she meant to say no to that? "Okay Naruto-kun," she silently congratulated herself on not stuttering during that brief speech. "Cool, see ya later ba-chan," Naruto yelled as he half-lifted half-dragged poor Hinata off of the couch and out of the room. Using Naruto as a distraction, Jiraiya headed towards the window hoping that Tsunade had forgotten about Naruto's earlier statement. Just as he reached the opposite sill that Kakashi had vacated earlier when he got bored, he felt a rather large killing intent from behind him. You were meant to be training him, not perving on women's bathhouses, don't you do that enough?" she yelled as she grabbed him by the collar and dragged him back into the room. Outside the Hokage's office, crying that sounded similar to a 10-year-old child could be heard. Obviously Tsunade needed something to do since she now had no sake to drink thanks to Shizune. Kakashi's sweat dropped as he heard the screams, but he was smart enough not to attempt to help and continued his walk while reading his beloved book. As the two teens were heading towards the west gate, a huge crash was heard, followed by the warning siren. Each shinobi pulled out a kunai and took to the roofs of the nearest buildings. Hinata gasped while Naruto growled. The south gate had been demolished by a huge snake summoning, not just an snake, but Manda. There was chaos throughout the village. An unexpected attack at this time of day was extremely rare. As the giant snake made its way further into the village, the brave shinobi of the leaf tried desperately to bring the monster to a halt. Their efforts were in vain. Things got even worse when from behind the oversized snake hundreds of sound shinobi flooded into the streets. Naruto-kun. The academy students won't have had chance to evacuate yet. Hinata pointed in the direction a couple of sound shinobi were headed in as she and Naruto continued to leap from rooftop to rooftop, deflecting weapons that were sent their way. Damn it. Come on Hinata, we'll leave these guys to handle them. He jabbed a finger towards a group of Konoha Anbu who had just appeared, heading towards the mass of sound shinobi that was growing in size. As they approached the academy, they could already see several chunin including Iruka fighting to protect their students. At this moment they were losing. It was 2 sound shinobi to every chunin. Naruto and Hinata both rushed in to aid them, Naruto making hundreds of Kage Bunshin, shadow clones, in the blink of an eye. Hinata ran at the 2 sound shinobi who were fighting Iruka. Gathering chakra into her hands, she sent a Jukin strike through one of the shinobi's back, killing him instantly. The other shinobi turned around just in time to receive a deadly accurate Jukin strike to his heart, causing it to stop mid-beat. Iruka just nodded his head in appreciation and ran to help his fellow chunin along with Hinata. Naruto had already taken out 23 sound shinobi, only losing a mere 40 shadow clones in the process. He lined his shadow clones around the children who had not been evacuated yet. In total there was 9 children, all with fear evident in their eyes. A Naruto clone knelt down to the children, his gentle eyes somewhat soothing their fear and anticipation. Hey, don't worry guys. Our ninja would never let anything happen to you lot. I promise I won't let you get hurt. The children calmed a little hearing these words. Each held onto each other and created their own little circle around the known weaker ones among them. All had a kunai in hand, as they had received some training while at the academy. Though they all knew they could do very little but at least try to protect themselves from stray kunai and shuriken as the battle waged on. Hinata embedded a kunai into her current opponent's temple, successfully killing the man with very little effort. As she looked round the playground, now turned graveyard for sound nen, she noted a Naruto clone talking to the children while the other clones had them covered from every possible angle. She smiled gently at the fact that he was at least able to calm them down, if only a little. Jumping in the air to avoid a barrage of shuriken and kunai aimed at her, she landed behind her attacker and hit a nerve in his spine with a Jukin strike, effectively crippling him. Now panting due to her extensive use of chakra, since she had been training all morning and now trying to defend several small children from a never-ending army of enemy nen. Naruto, there's a break in their forces, you and Hinata need to get the children out of here. Iruka turned just in time to deflect a kunai and ran off towards the smug-looking nin who had thrown it when his back was turned. Naruto made sure that his clones still surrounded the children, with extra clones carrying the children due to their fear and the fact that he could move faster this way. Hinata jumped down to the front of their makeshift formation and started at a steady speed towards the edge of undamaged forest past a section of the south wall that had been destroyed by the large snake. Naruto was surprised at Hinata's endurance. He could tell she was exhausted, but she continued to press on. He knew Hyugas had naturally low chakra, and he had seen Hinata do countless jutsus during her fighting. Naruto was impressed. She had come a long way while he had been away. She must have pushed herself to increase her chakra capacity since it's a well-known weakness of the Hyuga clan. He thought to himself as he followed her lead through the giant hole that was once a good section of the south wall. Tsunade and Jiraiya had been fighting Orochimaru and his damn annoying sidekick Kabuto for the last half hour. Both teams had received their share of wounds, But Kabuto was healing himself at an incredible rate whenever he got a wound, and Orochimaru would just regenerate. All three Sannin wear on the heads of their summons. Gamabunta did not look happy, staring at the giant snake with so much hatred it would freeze an human in their place. Orochimaru turned to look at Konoha and the damage his shinobi and summons had done. Konoha was now in pieces, all done in such a small amount of time. He smirked. Looking over to his two former teammates, he started to laugh. Tsunade could not believe this was happening to her village. After the last attack by sound, the village had to repair half of their buildings and replenish almost half of their shinobi. Crumpled building and bodies was all that could be seen. Tsunade kept herself from shedding any tears and turned to focus all of her anger upon the one man that had caused all this, Orochimaru. His cackle seemed to echo through her head as he disappeared from sight. She collapsed. How could I let him do this again? She screamed, mostly to herself. She felt an arm around her shoulder, and turned to see Jiraiya's bloody face. Tsunade, you need to go assess the damage and try to gather your remaining forces. He helped her up, and jumped down as their two summons left with a grim nod towards them both. She wiped her tears, and realized Konoha had no hope. Though Sound's force had dwindled and Orochimaru had retreated, his forces were still fighting. You go to the South Fate and take any leaf shinobi you find on your way, away from this place. Sound obviously will not retreat until we are all dead. Head to Suna if you can. They can either help us, or we can at least help them if Orochimaru plans on destroying them next. With that, she raced towards the north gate, knowing that Jiraiya would be able to get him and any leaf shinobi he may find on his way out of this now lost village. They were surrounded, and she knew Naruto knew this fact as well. Her Byakugan had seen the numerous clones that he had left in their trail transformed into twigs and stones. As they came to a clearing, they both stopped simultaneously. The remaining Naruto clones gathered around the children. Just as Hinata and Naruto had dropped into their taijutsu stances, 8 sound nin of Junin level dropped down from the trees surrounding the clearing. One of the sound nin sent many shuriken and kunai towards the two teens at an incredible rate. Hinata, having used up practically all of her chakra, only managed to dodge 3/4 of the weapons sent in her direction. The weapons she could not deflect or dodge embedded themselves into her upper arms and legs. Naruto turned to see Hinata's face contort with pain as she dropped to one knee, trying desperately to catch her breath while she removed some of the abusing weapons. He knew he had to do something. He had 7 innocent children to protect, and Hinata had reached her limit. Crossing his arms in front of him, he bit into both of his thumbs simultaneously, drawing blood from both. He then slid each thumb along the inside of his wrists over identical tattoos. Having done that, he made a hand seal in, and a brilliant blue aura of chakra surrounded him. He looked up at the sound nin that had thrown the offending weapons and disappeared from sight. Reappearing behind the sound nin, he slit said shinobi's throat with a kunai. Before the other enemy shinobi could react, he threw the kunai at one of them, embedding it into his right temple. Disappearing again, he reappeared in front of another of the shinobi and ducked under a punch that had been aimed at his face. In return, he reached up and twisted the mont's neck so far that it broke, his body falling limply to the floor. In an instant, Naruto had a Rasengan in each hand as 3 of the remaining 5 enemy shinobi charged at him. Plunging one Rasengan into the man coming from the right, he sent a roundhouse kick at the woman who had appeared in front of him. His kick connected and sent her flying through several trees. Naruto spun on his heel. Using his momentum, he jammed his other Rasengan into the second mont's gut, sending him spinning into the forestry. Hinata noticed that all this time Naruto's blue aura of chakra had not diminished. She was snapped from her thoughts as Naruto called out his next jutsu. Fuuten. Repusho. Gale Wind Palm. As Naruto shouted his jutsu, he aimed his palm towards another of the enemy nin, who in turn simply widened his eyes as a gust of wind sliced past him, literally cutting him to shreds. Naruto sensed movement to the right, just out of his line of vision. He ducked just in time to see a kunai embed itself into a tree, turning Naruto's mouth widened. The ninja who had thrown the kunai at him was now being pummeled by several identical brown-haired boys, of about 12 years old. Not only that, but a young Hyuga girl was closing all of his tenketsus, while another girl, a redhead this time, held a hand seal. She had obviously captured him in a genjutsu. The last member of their team also had his hands in a seal, which was obviously the reason the man found it impossible to move his feet as they were bound to the ground by thick roots that had sprouted from nowhere. As the four young leaf shinobi walked away from the tattered body and towards Naruto, he smiled at them. Konohamaru had lost his childish scarf. Now he wore a dark red t-shirt with the leaf insignia on each arm and black 3/4 bottoms with standard blue zori. His hitate was on his forehead, keeping his unruly brown locks from falling into his eyes. Moegi now wore attire similar to Sakura's genin style, though her top was a peach color and pants were a light brown. Her hitate was around her waist. Udon was dressed in a long-sleeved plain black top and long brown shinobi pants. His hitate was wrapped around his left bicep. Hanabi looked like a feminine version of Neji, both in clothes and feature. She wore similar attire to what Neji had worn as a genin, though she wore it in kunoichi style with her hitate was around her neck, like her older sisters. Hey, thanks for watching my back. You guys work really good as a team. The four shinobi smiled, though in Hanabi's case it was more of a smirk. The young genin headed over towards the children to help them calm down and treat any small injuries they may have gained from stray weapons during the fighting. Naruto smiled at them and looked over to Hinata to see her standing, leaning against a tree catching her breath. He finally noticed how she had changed. Her ninja attire was less bulky as it had been when he had left. Hinata had got rid of her large jacket. She now wore a dark purple form-fitting t-shirt with fishnet going down one arm. On the other arm she wore shinobi bandaging around her forearm. Her pants were tight-fitting black shinobi style, accessorized with different pockets that held various weapons. Her zori were now black, and the material on her hitate which was still around her neck was the same dark purple as her top. Hinata, are you okay? Naruto's eyes showed the concern he held for the Hyuga heiress. He slowly approached her over the dead bodies of the enemy nin. Hi Naruto-kun. I'm just drained of chakra, Gomen. Hey, don't be sorry Hinata-chan, I saw the amount of jutsus you used back there, I am impressed. He smiled his foxy grin while scratching the back of his head, a strange feeling stirring in his stomach but he just ignored it. Hinata blushed at his compliment and reverted her gaze to the floor, trying to keep the blush under control. Naruto walked over to inspect any injuries she may have gained. Meanwhile Hinata blushed at his closeness but tried to stay focused. Naruto took out some disinfectant and bandages from his pouch, treating Hinata's upper leg where she had been cut deeply by a shuriken. Naruto couldn't contain the faint blush that reached his face as he touched her leg. He noted that even though it was muscular as every shinobi's was, it was also still feminine. Hinata's breath caught in her chest when she felt Naruto's hands on her leg. She managed to will away the faint that would surely have happened had it not been such a serious occasion. As he finished wrapping her leg, he looked up to meet her eyes. When their eyes met, the two teens just stared into each other's eyes thinking how beautiful or captivating they were, as if nothing else mattered. Naruto realized that he still had his hand on Hinata's upper leg. He unwillingly broke eye contact and stood up, holding out a hand to help her up off of the fallen tree she was sat on. Both froze in place when they heard a scream. Chidori. Naruto's breath caught in his chest. He knew whoever yelled that. It wasn't Kakashi, and he only knew one other person who could perform that jutsu. You guys stay here and guard the kids, I'll be back. Before Hinata could argue, he disappeared, though not before setting up several genjutsu traps around the group. The genin gathered the children around Hinata, who was still resting from chakra depletion. Udon and Moegi set up complicated traps surrounding the group, close enough for them to know when they were triggered but not too close. Hanabi. Check our surroundings every few minutes with your Byakugan. Konohamaru. Have your clones spread out evenly around the perimeter of the traps. Hinata knew she had to do her best in organizing a defense until Naruto came back. Only when he was back could they move any further away from the village. She smiled towards the children, hoping to give them what little comfort she could at that moment in time. As Naruto appeared in an unnatural clearing, he realized he was right. It was Sasuke who had called out his ex-sensei's signature move. But what caught him by surprise was the fact that he was fighting sound shinobi. The numerous dead bodies of sound nin littered the area around him, mounting up to at least 60. Sasuke stood panting slightly in the center of the clearing. Sasuke turned to where he sensed movement a split second ago, only to see his former teammate, Naruto, staring at him with bewilderment evident in his cerulean eyes. Sasuke felt a mix of relieved and scared. He knew he had almost killed Naruto once, but he was back to explain and to ask for forgiveness. True, Sasuke had gone to Orochimaru, but not entirely of his own free will. The curse seal given to him by Orochimaru in the Forest of Death had greatly affected his mind and thoughts. The seal had practically made his mind think that it was for the best, and that everything would be fine as long as he stayed under Orochimaru's tutelage. Though he had trained with Orochimaru, in the back of his head he regretted every moment of it. He regretted leaving his friends, no, his family. But those thoughts did him no good, as the seal just repressed them and turned his thoughts against him. But when Sasuke had found his new lever of power, after all his training under Orochimaru, he finally had it. Sasuke had gained the Mangekyo Sharingan, not easily nor by simple hard work, but by practically torture. Orochimaru had made him watch many gruesome things that even most ninja would not see in their lifetime. Though for Sasuke it was a relief to know that he was more powerful and he could finally avenge the death of his clan. That wasn't the only relief he got from gaining the Mangekyo Sharingan. Somehow his newly acquired form of Sharingan had a side effect with the curse seal he was marked with. After hours of unimaginable pain endured alone in his quarters, Sasuke was free of the curse seal. He did not know how to explain it himself. It was as if the Mangekyo Sharingan was not a power to be contained by a curse seal. The breaking of the curse seal had allowed Sasuke to think clearly for the first time in almost 3 years, and he was beyond relieved. The first thing Sasuke did was flee Orochimaru's hideout and head towards Konoha, but on his way he had sensed Sound's forces heading in the same direction as him. The snake must have found out quickly just what had happened to his prized experiment and soon-to-be new body. Sasuke blamed himself for the ruins Konoha must be in right now. Sasuke, why are you here? And killing Sound Shinobi at that? Naruto looked confused yet unwavering as he spoke to his former teammate. He would not speak until he knew just why Sasuke was here, and seemingly helping Konoha. I am sorry. There isn't time to explain, we have to get away from Konoha, but please trust me, I am no longer marked with that blasted curse seal. He showed Naruto his plain, cream-colored shoulder as proof. He just hoped it was enough to earn his trust for now. They desperately needed to get away from the war zone. Naruto studied Sasuke's usually blank features. Now he could see several emotions he rarely, if ever, saw on the face of Uchiha Sasuke. Fear, regret and sorrow were the 3 emotions that set themselves apart from any others that may have been portrayed on his face at that moment. Fine, come on, there are some others I told to wait for me a little ahead. But I swear, if you so much as hint that you're going to hurt any of them, I will not hesitate to incapacitate you. Sasuke nodded in agreement, knowing that Naruto would follow through with his threat. After all, this is Naruto, and he never goes back on his word. As Naruto and Sasuke entered the clearing, they were met with 2 Hyugas in similar, yet different taijutsu stances, and a group of 3 genin in trees above them. Also several shadow clones coming up behind them. Nice defense you set up, Hinata-chan, but don't worry, I'll fill you in on why he's here once we're further away from the danger zone. Hinata nodded, and reluctantly stepped out of her stance, and the younger ninja followed suit. After 3 days of intense running, as fast as carrying the 7 children would allow them, and acquiring several other leaf ninja, they arrived at Sungakure. But this wasn't the Suna that most of the shinobi had seen countless times before. Suna was just what Konoha had turned into, a destroyed village. As Hinata used her Byakugan to scout around the once powerful hidden village, she noted a large battle going on, just to the south of the city. Naruto-kun, there are some Suna shinobi still fighting off enemy forces, we need to help. This was a time of need. Hinata knew there was no time for her stuttering now. Naruto nodded in response and turned to look at the group that had grown since he had met with Sasuke. They had thankfully found some of their friends. Team Guy minus their sensei, Anko and Iruka. Iruka, Sasuke and Neji will stay with the genin and other children over by that sheltered rock formation while me and the rest assess the situation and help in any way we can. Naruto pointed over to said rock formation that would shelter them from the wind. Baka, who put you in charge? Anko knew Naruto was strong, but she felt that either she or Iruka should be leading this team with their experience. Naruto turned to her, amusement and determination shone in his eyes. Do you have a better idea, Anko-san? He smirked when she had no comeback, instead she just sighed. Neji also did not look pleased with the news that he would not be able to join the fight. As the group of genin and children followed Iruka and Sasuke towards the rock formation, Naruto placed a hand on Neji's shoulder and whispered to him. I only chose you to stay behind to keep an eye on Sasuke, and I trust you to be able to handle him. I trust him, but I'm still wary. Also, your Byakugan can reach further than Hanabi's. You will be able to see the outcome of the battle. Neji nodded at him, and ran to keep up with the others heading towards the rocks. Naruto turned towards his makeshift team and nodded. His fellow shinobi nodded with determination in return. They all set off at a fast pace towards the ongoing battle against the snake's dwindling forces. Gaara had his hand raised towards the sun. He looked out over the desert, towards the annoying ninja who had destroyed his village. Not only his village but their strongest ally. How this could have happened he did not know. Suna no Shigur, sand shower. Sharp pellets of sand fell to the ground at a tremendous pace, piercing the now screaming sound shinobi easily. Panting for breath, Gaara lowered his hand and glanced to his left as he saw a flash of yellow. He smirked to himself as he noticed Naruto and several other Leaf Shinobi join his remaining forces and the other Leaf Shinobi that had already turned up just hours before. Jiraiya, Kakashi and the remaining shinobi of the Rookie Nine, that weren't with Naruto's group, had arrived and joined in the effort of trying to save Suna. Right now Gaara could only see the Konoha ninja, his siblings and Matsuri still standing and fighting. He had sent a good 30 Chunin and Junin level ninja to help Konoha when he received information that a huge army of sound shinobi had been spotted near the border of the Fire Country. He did not expect Orochimaru to have anywhere near enough forces to send sound nin to destroy Suna as well. Just what was this snake possible of? Most citizens, genin and veteran ninja had been evacuated to nearby villages where they would hopefully be safe, with instructions to hide out until this sudden war was over. Gaara now had no idea just what was going to happen to his people. He had failed them as their cage. With Naruto's team's help, the remaining sound shinobi were defeated. Jiraiya and Kakashi had taken the few that were left alive to question. The tired shinobi chatted and tried to formulate some plans while treating injuries. Meanwhile, Naruto had sent 50 clones to escort the rest of his team to their current location from the rock formation just outside of the once strong walls of Suna. There's an old abandoned village west from here, just large enough for our numbers. I reckon heading there would be our best choice, especially since we have children in our group now. For once, Jiraiya was taking things seriously and the group were thankful. They knew they had a better chance of survival with a Sannin in their midst. Neji and the others walked up to their group, smiling at the fact that their friends were okay. Sakura turned her head to the approaching group, glad that her other friends had been able to make it out of Konoha. She almost fainted when she recognized the well-known chicken butt hairstyle of her former teammate. His appearance was the usual sound shinobi garb, purple wrap and all. His outfit showed most of his smooth chest. She also noted that he now carried a sword. Sasuke? Sasuke understood the absence of the kun suffix when she said his name, and for some reason he didn't like it. Naruto came to his rescue when he explained just what had happened both to Sasuke and how they had met in the forest near Konoha. Jiraiya studied his once cursed shoulder and confirmed it. He no longer held the curse sealed to the relief of all the shinobi gathered. Looks like we have no other choice, we're heading west. Kakashi was relieved that Sasuke was back under his own pretenses and not being controlled by that damn curse seal, but decided to keep a close eye on him. Who knew what games Orochimaru could have played with his mind? They were running at a medium pace for genin because of the 7 young children they had with them and also because of the 4 genin's lack of stamina. While they had stopped to set up camp last night, Naruto and the others had insisted on getting to know each of the children. Akamaru was carrying both the eldest and youngest child of the 7. They were to be brothers, therefore the older child had insisted he be with his brother. Katsu, the eldest, was 10, while his brother Yori was just 6. Once Katsu had told them his and his brother's names, the other children had also come out of their shell. Miu and Ren were a set of twins of age 7, both with similar brown hair, though Miu's was past her shoulders due to her being a girl. Ren's hair hung loosely at the back yet spiked up towards the front. Though they were almost identical, both had different eyes. Ren had stunning dark blue eyes, while Miu's eyes were a vibrant brown matching her hair. Hotaru was the oldest girl in the group, being 9. She had her blonde hair cut to shoulder length with green eyes that almost looked blue when the light hit them. Akemi was a shy and reserved girl who only really spoke in full sentences with Hotaru. She had black hair with matching black eyes. Her hair was in a low ponytail that went down to her hips. Kiyoshi was the last to talk about himself. He had dark blue hair cut short but with bangs that hung loosely around his 8-year-old face. Katsu and his younger brother Yori were very different in both appearance and personality. Yori was bubbly and outgoing, his almost glowing red hair matched his personality and his green eyes held a rarely seen purity. Katsu obviously felt that his younger brother needed protecting. He was a serious boy, rare for a 10-year-old to be. Katsu's features were almost opposites of his younger brother's. His hair was a light brown, almost blonde, and his eyes were an enchanting hazel color. The older ninja had taken charge and assigned others positions while they were traveling. Jiraiya and Shino were at the front, Neji and Tenten flanking them slightly off to the side. Ino and Lee were on the left side of the almost diamond-shaped formation, while Shikamaru and Temari were on the right opposite them. In the middle of the diamond was Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, Kiba and Matsuri, all with a child on their back. Naruto, Kiyoshi, Hinata, Akemi, an ironic much? Sakura, Hotaru, Kiba, Ren, Matsuri, Mew. Akamaru was also with them slightly in front, carrying the two brothers on his back. Konohamaru, Moegi, Udon and Hanabi were behind them just inside the diamond formation, just keeping up with the pace set by the older shinobi. Gaara and Kankuro were flanking the genin on either side, with Choji in the middle of the two. Iruka and Anko were lagging behind to cover up and tracks that were being left by the group. Thankfully they had not run into any more enemy shinobi, and according to Jiraiya they were just a day's travel from the abandoned town. That night they decided to set up camp in a large cave Neji's Byakugan had come across. Jiraiya, Neji, Gaara, Kakashi and Shikamaru had just finished talking about what they planned on doing once they arrived at the empty village. Naruto and Hinata were assigned to the first watch of the night. Sitting just outside the entrance, Naruto had just finished setting up defensive traps with Hinata as lookout while he did. I hope it wasn't just us who were able to get away from that snake's forces. Naruto plonked himself down next to Hinata on the ridge meters away from the entrance, giving them easy access to the rest of the group. Hinata nodded in agreement. Had this been Hinata just 2 years previous, she probably would have fainted by now. I'm sure there are others, Naruto-kun. Leaf shinobi aren't pushovers after all. Hinata added a faint smile in hopes of boosting Naruto's spirits. In a strange way it worked. Naruto got that weird feeling in his stomach looking at Hinata while she did her best to cheer him up. She had always done that, always been there in her own way to comfort and support him. He remembered back to her words before his fight with Neji in the Chunin exams, her words of encouragement. He smiled back, not his big fox-like grin, but a true smile that others rarely got to see. Hinata blushed as she noticed his genuine smile. She was one of the few who could see past the mask he always put up. While Naruto was away on his training, he had thought things through, mainly things involving his friends and his feelings towards them. Sakura, he no longer held romantic feelings for. He had decided long ago that her heart would only be for Sasuke, and oddly he was fine with that. He knew it was only a crush. He had only persistently asked her out because she was the only girl he was close to during his first few months as a genin. Sakura was his little sister and he'd do anything to make her happy. Lee was youthful, but Naruto knew that both of them would risk their lives in an instant for one of their friends. Neji he knew would do the same, even though he didn't give it away so obviously. Though not knowing Tenten as well as he knew the other girls, he respected her strength as a shinobi, and the fact that she was able to melt the ice cube Hyuga. Kiba and Shikamaru were like brothers to him, annoying but still family. Kiba was like him, a loudmouth but knew when to shut up and take things seriously. Shikamaru was the brains behind most missions he was assigned to, even if it didn't seem like he cared much about the success. He knew if he needed advice he could go to Shikamaru, even if he wasn't willing to give it, he'd make Temari help him. Temari, his best friend's sister, he knew not to get on her wrong side, especially with that fan she always carried. Naruto felt a bit sorry for Shikamaru, but knew that Temari was good for him even if she did cause him several bruises in the process. Kankuro, though he didn't know him all that well, he knew Kankuro was fun to be around, always trying to cheer people up, kind of like himself. Gaara, he felt proud knowing that he had helped Gaara in the past and how Gaara was able to get his village to see him as a human and not a monster. Ino, Choji and Shino, though he didn't know them as well as he did others, he called them friends. He knew that Ino could be loud, Shino impossible quiet and Choji, well yeah. He knew he would risk his life to save any of them if he could. Hinata. He had thought about her a lot while he was training with Jiraiya. He always got that feeling in his stomach whenever he thought about her. How she was always there to cheer him up, how she had encouraged him before the third stage of the Chunin exams. He saw her as a close friend, but yet unknowingly wanted more. He thought it was just a crush at first, but he didn't get these feelings when he was around Sakura in his early genin days. Though he knew nothing could happen between them, Hinata being the heiress, the one of the most powerful clans in Konoha, and him being the Kyuubi container. But he was sure that Konoha was no more. Maybe he did have a slight chance, but the knowledge of if he did want to tell her his feelings, he would have to tell her about Kyuubi. Naruto decided to break the peaceful silence around the two. How's your training been going while I've been away? He cursed silently to himself. He knew it was a lame way to start a conversation, but he was curious. He had seen her take out countless enemy shinobi. This was not the Hinata from before he left the village. It's been good, Naruto-kun. I've trained with Neji-Nisan and F-Father. I also carried on training with my teammates and also with Sakura. Hinata berated herself for stuttering, but at least she had managed to say the sentence with only stuttering twice. Wow, sounds like you've been busy. Once we sort out this mess, I'm going to have to spar with you. Naruto let out a low chuckle at Hinata's face. She had a faint blush and a look of shock. Hi, but I won't be a very good match for you. Hinata lowered her head from the stars to the floor. Naruto had been training with a legendary Sannin. How would she be able to keep up? Hey, I saw you take out countless guys back there. I'd have to watch out in a spar against you, Hinata-chan. Hinata smiled. He always was good at cheering people up and boosting their confidence. That was one of the many things she admired about him. How was your training, Naruto-kun? Naruto slid over so he was now facing Hinata's side in a cross-legged position. He grinned at how the moonlight enhanced her features. Snapping back to the present, he thought about how to answer. Well, it was hard, but worth it. I've learned loads of new jutsus. I'll have to show them you sometime. Hinata nodded while turning to mimic Naruto's position. It was then that she realized just how close they were. They were less than an arm's space apart. She couldn't help but let her blush creep up onto her features. Naruto was lost in her eyes. He had never noticed before, but Hyuga's eyes were usually white. But Hinata's held a hint of lavender in them. Oi, you too. It's our watch, you can go get some sleep. Tamari appeared at the face of the cave, along with a half-asleep Shikamaru being hopelessly half-dragged along. Troublesome woman. Shikamaru's muttering was heard by Tamari and her eyes narrowed. Did you say something, Shika? Her false sweet tone sent shivers down Shikamaru's back. Meanwhile, Naruto and Hinata decided to enter the cave for safety. They knew what Tamari was like when it came to being called troublesome. A heavy thud was heard as they walked through the cave, followed by a low moan that could only be Shikamaru's. Good night, Hinata-chan, Naruto whispered as not to wake the others as the two parted their ways to separate ends of the cave. Good night, Naruto-kun. Hinata's whisper was just loud enough for Naruto to hear. He yawned as he rolled Kiba further away from his designated sleeping space. That damn dog didn't half snore. The group had risen late in the morning, giving the children and Genin time to recover from the past few days of intense running and lack of sleep. After finishing a large hurried breakfast, they were on their way again. Jiraiya informed them that they would arrive at the town late afternoon. Naruto smiled as he looked over at Hinata, who was talking gently with the shy 7-year-old, Akemi. The weird feeling had made its way back into his stomach as he found himself glancing her way more often as they ran. He could hear her talking to the little girl about flowers, obviously trying to keep the poor girl distracted from the speeds they were running at. He peered over his shoulder and noted that Kiyoshi had fallen asleep. He smiled softly. He knew that the boy had been talking with the young girls last night until Akemi and the rest had fallen asleep. Kiyoshi was obviously brought up with great respect for people. He had rambled on about God knows what in hopes of comforting the other children. Naruto had realized last night that the group of children all seemed to know each other somehow, Whether they were related or just friends, it reminded him of the Rookie 9. Hinata looked across to Naruto, pausing her talk with Akemi. She noticed that Kyoshi had fallen asleep on Naruto's back. She couldn't help but giggle. What are why you laughing at Hinata Nichan? Hinata had insisted that the girl refer to her as a sibling, in hopes of bringing the girl out of her shell. Akemi looked at Hinata with questioning eyes. In response to the little girl's question, Hinata pointed over to Naruto. I was laughing at how Kyoshi reminds me of Naruto-kun, and how cute he looks when he sleeps. Akemi let a small smile grace her face. Though she was in training to be a ninja herself, she had always thought that all ninjas thought about their duty no matter what. But being around the Rookie 9 and Team Guy, she realized that they all cherished their friends and others above all else. Though Akemi was shy, she was amazingly observant and friendly, much similar to Hinata. The group came to an abrupt halt, mostly due to the huge wall of earth that had started to form in the middle of the group. The front half of the team were forced to leap forwards as to not get hit by the still growing wall of earth. The back half of the team were forced backwards. They formed a semi-circle against the gigantic wall of rough rock around the children, hoping to block any attack that could reach them. Front half of the group: Jiraiya, Shino, Kakashi, Neji, Tenten, Shikamaru, Temari, Ino, Sasuke and Lee. Back half of the group: Naruto, Hinata, Sakura, Kiba, Akamaru, Gaara, Choji, Iruka, Anko, Hanabi, Konohamaru, Moegi and Udon. Jiraiya cursed. He hadn't sensed the ambush in time. His makeshift team was surrounded by a good 30 cloud shinobi from Kumogakure, who had undoubtedly joined Orochimaru's force against Leaf and Suna. He was certain that his group could take them, even if they were all Junin level. What he was more concerned about was the group that had been separated on the other side of the wall. As Jiraiya's group started their battle with the offending shinobi, the other group were being taunted by a further 30 enemy shinobi. You might as well give up now, we have you outnumbered and outranked. The commanding voice came from within the trees as the 30 visible shinobi sneered towards the young ninja. Just as the man finished his sentence, hundreds of Naruto clones appeared from the tree line, taking on any and all enemy shinobi they could. Simultaneously Iruka, Anko, Kiba, Akamaru, Naruto and Hinata charged forward as if they had planned for this. Sakura and the others hung back to protect the children, all ready to deflect any attacks at a moment's notice. Jujuin Bunshin, beast human clone. 2 identical Kibas could be seen side by side on 4 legs, ready to pounce. 2 unknowing cloud shinobi charged towards them as the 2 simultaneously jumped towards them with blinding speed. Gatsuga, piercing fang. The 2 cloud shinobi could be seen flying away from the spinning Kibas into the surrounding forestry. Meanwhile Hinata was surrounded by several men looking on at her with eyes tinged with madness. Well, looks like we got ourselves a lovely little Hyuga. Hinata frowned. It was one thing being called Hyuga in a disconcerting tone that held no respect. But underestimating her was not a good idea, especially when they were this close and surrounding her in a circle at that. Hokage Sho Kaden, heavenly spin. Hinata rotated at amazing speed, sending the advancing men flying into their comrades. Shouldn't Cloud Shinobi do their homework on Hyugas, especially since they were determined to obtain their Byakugan? She thought to herself while readying her attack for a man who had charged carelessly into her divination. Hake Rokuju Yanshu, 64-point hands. Hinata's opponent dropped to the floor, mouth agape and eyes showing the amount pain he had just gone through. Hinata gasped for breath. Using Kaden was draining enough, but sealing off all 64 tenketsus was extremely hard. Suddenly she was grabbed from behind. The enemy had taken advantage of the Byakugan's blind spot and roughly yanked her to him as he jumped away from the battle. Now my little Hyuga, calm down. With the chakra binds you cannot harm me. The creepy hooded figure whispered into her ear as he attacked the binds to her wrists without hesitation or care. Hinata did her best to break free of the man's unnaturally tight grip, but to no avail. Once he had placed the binds on her, she could feel all of her energy slip away. Meanwhile Naruto and the others were busy with their own opponents. Though they had defeated more than half, most were running low on chakra. Gaara had put up his Suna no Tate, sand shield, around the children, but was hard time keeping it up while fighting several opponents who had advanced on him and Sakura. Sakura had used up a good deal of her chakra trying to keep advancing shinobi away from the children. Her immense strength had demolished the surrounding area and several enemy nin. Choji, Kiba and Akamaru were out cold, and being absorbed by Gaara's Suna shield as Konohamaru and his friends had aided Iruka in bringing them over to relative safety. Anko was still fighting, though only in taijutsu as she was also depleted of chakra, giving Iruka and the genin time to save Choji, Kiba and Akamaru from further damage while they lay unconscious. All of Naruto's clones were being destroyed as soon as he could replace them. The Cloud Shinobi's lightning attacks were devastating and could destroy numerous clones in one hit. His last few clones were helping Gaara and Anko at the time being, hoping to give the two openings in their opponent's defenses. Another 4 hooded figures landed gracefully beside the man who held Hinata captive with seeming ease. They have done pretty well, but all are on their last legs. They are no match for us. Naruto looked up to see 5 hooded figures standing behind Hinata, who was now kneeling on the floor, watching the fighting come to an end. His vision was temporarily blocked as Anko came flying towards him. He caught her in time and placed her on the ground next to Gaara, who had finished his opponents. Gaara's shield around the children had dropped. His chakra was depleted, but that did not stop him or the genin from surrounding their unconscious friends and the children. Kunai at the ready. Naruto assessed the situation. None of the others could fight and stand a chance. He would have to rely on them to deflect any weapons that were sent towards the injured and the children. The man who had captured Hinata stepped forward and knelt down on one knee behind her, one hand on her shoulder and the other holding a kunai menacingly. Well, not to sound overconfident or anything, but I think we win. He knew he had lost all of the shinobi under his command, except for the 4 standing behind him. But that did not matter, they were expendable. Why don't you come along with us willingly? I'm sure Orochimaru would have some fun experimenting on your little friends. Naruto glared at the man with all the hate he could muster. He would not let anything happen to his friends or the kids behind him. He would fight till he was dead. He just hoped that would be enough to save them. Or I suppose me and my friends could just have our fun with you, and tell Orochimaru that you died while fighting us. Naruto could tell the man was suggesting something disgusting. He was having enough trouble as it was suppressing the will to release Kyuubi on this man, but what the man did next made his eyes glow red. The sickly man put his chin on Hinata's shoulder and took her hair in his hands roughly. As he did this, he cut her cheek with his kunai and suggestively licked the blood from her cheek. Hinata closed her eyes when he cut her cheek, but her eyes shot open when he licked her cheek. Surely he would just kill them, and not do that. She knew Kumo and Sound Ninja could kill mercilessly, but to hint at that, and with children present, she could not bear to think what might happen. Naruto's fists were clenched so hard that his fingernails were drawing blood. He knew releasing Kyuubi would result in not only a bloodbath but also the chance of his friends being harmed in the process. He calmed himself and reopened his now cerulean eyes. I will not let you harm my friends. I will die before you can touch them with your dirty hands in the way you are suggesting. I believe you are in no place to order me around, you silly boy. With that, the man removed his hood, revealing a head of sickly, greasy black hair and animal-like slit yellow eyes. He dropped his hand from Hinata's hair and snaked it around her waist, pulling her up with him when he stood. She has an unbelievable body, don't you think? Maybe I should keep her for myself. As the man finished his sentence, Naruto snapped. A bright yellow and orange flash blinded the man for a second. The group behind Naruto was also blinded, but managed to hear the jutsu Naruto whispered. Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Technique. The group's jaws dropped to the floor. That technique was a well-known technique, belonging to just one man, the 4th Hokage. The Flying Thunder God Technique was the 4th signature move, installing fright into enemy nations during the war. That technique had earned him the name, Konoha's Yellow Flash. That and his Rasengan had made him one of the most feared shinobi. Orders were given to enemy shinobi to retreat if they saw him on the battlefield. The greasy-haired man laughed at the boy's attempt to attack him with an oddly shaped kunai. He had simply moved his head to the side, allowing the kunai to embed itself into the tree a meter behind him. The next thing the man saw was a flash of yellow and orange, then a fist connecting directly with his face. The man was launched back through the trees surrounding the area. Naruto stood in his place with determination shining in his eyes. The other 4 hooded figures launched themselves at him. knowing he would not be fast enough to move both him and the Hyuga girl. Two Naruto clones rose from the ground just in front of the original, each with a Rasengan in hand. Two of the four hooded figures managed to jump back, but the other two had already launched themselves into the air, aiming an attack each towards Naruto. Both Naruto clones jumped towards the offending ninja, crying out simultaneously. Rasengan. Both the shinobi were sent flying towards their allies who had managed to jump back, both with a Rasengan-sized hole in their stomachs. As the Naruto clones dispersed, the original ran towards the two remaining ninja who had haphazardly caught their teammates. Naruto's kick was blocked by the man on the right, while his arm was caught by the woman to his left. Naruto was sent flying away from the two at an amazing pace, right towards Hinata. Naruto glanced back at the enemy shinobi in midair to see many kunai and shuriken following his path of flight. Looking towards his landing zone, he saw Hinata. His eyes widened in realization. He couldn't dodge because if he did she would get the brunt of the weapons sent towards him. He braced himself for the landing, knocking Hinata over who had tried to catch him to no avail since her hands were still tied. Knowing what was coming, Naruto pushed Hinata to the ground and covered as much of her body with his as he could. Meanwhile, Sakura and the other conscious shinobi were sending their own arsenal of weapons, in hope of deflecting them from the two downed shinobi. Naruto locked eyes with a shocked Hinata just as the remaining weapons hit him, embedding themselves in his shoulders, load back in the back of his legs. Hinata saw Naruto's face contort with pain and glanced past his shoulder. She gasped when she realized that he had taken the brunt of the attack. With only a few stray shuriken and kunai slicing some of her skin open around her shoulders and legs. Tears formed in the corners of her eyes as Naruto's breathing grew deeper. She knew the weapons probably didn't hit any major arteries, but with the loss of blood and lack of chakra, it was amazing his was still conscious enough to try and grin at her. Cough. Don't worry, Hina-chan, I won't let my precious people, cough, get hurt. Hinata was shocked at the new nickname she had acquired. She had not been called that since her mother had passed away. She couldn't help the small blush that crept onto her still shocked features. He managed a half smile as he raised himself from what would have been an awkward position had the situation not been so serious. As Naruto turned to the smirking shinobi, he saw that the man from earlier was back and looking pissed. He knew he had to end this before he passed out from blood loss and chakra depletion. He drew his arms up to cross in front of his lower face as his bit down on each thumb, drawing blood. The man and the two remaining hooded shinobi charged towards him, kunai drawn, in hopes of stopping the oncoming attack. Just like a few days previous, Naruto swiped his bleeding thumbs over the inside of his wrists, in turn giving him the same blue aura and extra chakra from before. While his thumbs were still bleeding, he performed the necessary seals for a summoning. He slammed both hands down on the floor in front of him. As a result, he now had two armored toads, both standing 6 feet tall with swords readied. Both toads blocked a hooded cloud shinobi each, while Naruto ducked under the man's attack that was set towards his neck in hopes of decapitating him. In return, Naruto delivered a well-aimed stomach punch, and began a combination of amazing taijutsu attacks. Meanwhile, the two toad summonings who turned out to be Gamakichi and his brother Gamamatsu attacked their opponents with a combination of sword and taijutsu attacks. Anko, who had recovered from her unconsciousness, sent forward snakes from her sleeves, wrapping themselves around the hooded woman who was getting the better of Gamamatsu. Hinata jumped to her feet determined to help. She ran towards the struggling woman and delivered a shocking roundhouse kick that looked as powerful as a chakra-enhanced kick. The woman sailed into a nearby tree, sliding to the ground dead since her neck had been snapped by an angry Hinata and several wounds left by Anko's snakes. Gamamatsu turned to help his brother against the final hooded shinobi, both sliced at his sides that had been left open for an attack. Gamakichi frowned as he realized the man was still alive. He pulled back his short sword and slammed it into the man's chest. Received a gurgled cry of pain as blood poured from the now dead man's mouth. Naruto slammed a Rasengan into the man who was lying at his feet. As a result, he was splattered with blood, but a satisfied look adorned his features. Naruto collapsed unconscious to the side of the man as Sakura and the others ran towards their fellow shinobi. A huge crash was heard as the wall rock collapsed, revealing a tired Kakashi holding his forearm, showing that he had just smashed through the wall with a Chidori. "We don't have time to treat everyone here. Jiraiya take them to the abandoned town. Shino, Sasuke and I will stay to clear up this mess. Kakashi could tell they were all tired, but they needed to get away from here as soon as they could, and to the safety of the town Jiraiya had told them of. All conscious shinobi nodded and gathered up their friends who couldn't run and also the children, jumping off into the trees. Shino put a hand on Anko's shoulder just as she was about to leap off after the group, having broke Hinata's chakra binds and was now carrying her on her back. Take this bug with you, we'll be able to find you after we are done here. Shino let a bug hop from his finger to land on Anko's arm. That Anko's face showed both that she was disgusted at having a bug on her, but also amused that Kakashi wasn't the one to come up with the idea and obviously hadn't thought of how he and the other two were meant to find the town. As she jumped off, a now conscious Iruka headed of a split second after, ready to destroy the tracks that were no doubt going to be left behind by the rest of the group. That's all for now. If you enjoyed, then please like, share and do comments.